The eerie sound of sharpening knives echoed through the room. The young man panicked. He instinctively turned his head to see Lin calmly sharpening the pitch-black blade in his hands. Under the dim light, it was a sight that sent shivers down one's spine. The young man asked, "Doctor, for removing stitches, do you really need such a big knife?" Lin raised the sharpened knife and effortlessly cut a hair into two. Snick, instantly divided into two. Lin smiled. "Precise cuts. A good surgery knife can be of any size. Don't worry, whether it's a big or small knife, it can perform surgery." The young man shivered. "Is removing stitches always done without anesthesia?" Lin was puzzled, then showed an apologetic smile, putting down the knife and taking out a bottle of anesthesia from the medical kit. "Sorry, got a bit too excited. I'll inject you right away." The young man lay there in a daze. Could anesthesia be forgotten? Wasn't it an essential step for a doctor treating a patient? And why did he say again? Why did he say excited when using a knife on someone? Wasn't that something to be excited about? He slowly felt that this doctor might not be as reliable as he thought. "How is it? Completely paralyzed? Can you feel it if I poke you?" Lin asked seriously. Karen, lying there completely numb, mumbled in a half-asleep state. The side effect of general anesthesia made him seem dazed, and he felt completely at ease. Following the normal procedure, he only needed to sleep, and when he woke up, the surgery would be done without feeling any pain. "Looks good. I'll start now." A satisfied voice came from Lin, and Karen, half dreaming, completely relaxed. In an instant, an excruciating pain woke him up. Wait a minute. Something's not right. Why the hell is he feeling this pain even with general anesthesia? He immediately saw Lin's knife cutting through his stitched wounds, and he stared as the doctor meticulously cut left and right. He screamed like a slaughtered pig in his mind. But because of the paralysis, he couldn't make any noise. He could only scream in his mind. He trembled. What's going on? Why the hell is it still so painful with general anesthesia? Lin, who was removing stitches, looked at Karen's trembling body, then kindly and gently wiped the sweat from his face. "Sleep well. Don't worry. After a nap, you'll be a healthy young man. Sleep well." Saying that, Lin accelerated the pace of removing stitches. Karen felt as if his whole body was tearing apart. Outside the door, the warriors who had been wary of Lin were now showing admiration as they peeked through the gap. "Mayor, this doctor is indeed very dedicated. Just looking at how he administers anesthesia, he's miles better than those night doctors." Karen is shedding tears of gratitude. The mayor sighed and stroked his long beard, saying, "That's good. I didn't expect to encounter such a dedicated and non-perverted doctor in this dark world. It seems there are still good people here." A few minutes later, inside the room, Lin examined Karen, who had already been partially unstitched. He carefully observed the seam between the two body parts and noticed a white, sticky substance adhering between the flesh pieces, just as his teacher had mentioned. Is this the strange potion that night doctors use? Lin wondered. System information appeared before him. A special potion only usable by night doctors. Applied to wounds, it can remove curses, maintain normal consciousness, and resist certain specific plague curses. However, the side effect is the loss of the target's self-healing ability. Lin was shocked. Epic quality. That's higher than legendary. Are night doctors really that rich? Can they casually use epic potions on others? It seems to be a specific antidote designed to remove certain curses. Could this be the reason night doctors cut people into pieces? Putting aside these thoughts, Lin dared not remove all of the potion. At least, he couldn't remove it entirely. Lin earnestly held Karen's trembling and tearful head, saying, "Karen, I'm going to start stitching you up. Don't worry, soon you'll become a normal person again." Saying that, he took out the sutures from the medical box, smiled as he threaded the needle, and aimed at Karen's chest. His stitching method was quite simple. Since people only see the outer layer of skin, he just needed to suture the flesh under the skin normally, remove the potion from the skin, and then use a healing potion to quickly close it up. This way, there would be no visible signs of stitching from the outside. It was truly a genius idea. Finally, after about 10 minutes, Lin wiped the sweat from his forehead. He then took out a healing potion and evenly sprinkled it at the junction of his muscles and skin. Lin's face showed a satisfied expression. "That's it, it's done. Din, you have successfully completed the mission, Special Suturing. You received mission rewards, 500 skull coins, 500 basic experience." Lin smiled and said, "Karen, the surgery was a perfect success. You no longer need to worry about your ugly appearance. And to make you look even better, I specially fixed the dark spots and pimples on your face. You've been healed." The mayor and others rushed up anxiously, asking, "How is it? How was the surgery?" Lin smiled and said, "Very successful. He has completely recovered now. He's a healthy child." Saying that, Lin invited them in, and the mayor and others instantly saw the body lying on the table, completely clean and without any visible seams. The surrounding girls were all amazed. Wow, there's really no scar at all. So smooth. Just like a baby. Certainly, like a baby, because it has been peeled and repeatedly cleaned, and soaked meticulously with special chemicals. It has given the epidermal cells a rejuvenation. Dr. Lin, you are indeed a true angel in a white coat. Lin smiled. It's a small matter, nothing worth mentioning. The eyes of the surrounding townspeople were full of wonder, and their gaze towards Lin became admiring. It's like this, doctor. In our town, it's not just Karen who has been operated on by the night doctor, I mean. If possible, could you also help some other people, especially a few girls? The impact of scars on girls is far more significant than on others. Several veiled, slender girls lowered their heads, nervously and urgently looking at Lin, their eyes filled with hope. Lin hesitated. Wouldn't that be a bit inappropriate? Those girls immediately rushed over, surrounding Lin, pleading and hoping with raised heads, saying, "No, there's nothing inappropriate at all. Doctor, please help us. As long as you can remove the scars on our bodies, we can promise anything you ask, even if it's something challenging. We won't have any reservations, and we'll cooperate with you completely." Even the mayor gave him a serious and pleading look, saying, "Doctor, it's really troublesome for you. I know your medical skills are superb. I believe you can bring redemption to these children. You can rest assured I'll take care of their scars. Healing the wounded is a doctor's duty, and I won't stand idly by. Those unrelated, please leave. Line up one by one. Who among you wants to receive my treatment?" Those girls immediately raised their hands in unison, saying, "This one wants to go first. Doctor, pick me. Doctor, I'm petite and easy to handle. Choose me first." Karen lying on the table trembled. This doctor, he ignores resistance to anesthesia. But it was completely useless. In the midst of tears, Karen was carried out by a few people. The crimson moon hung high. In the town, black mist surged, and most people's attention was drawn to the room where Lin was. On the square, among the weakened werewolves guarded by several guards. "Boss, how are you feeling?" The werewolf leader covered his buttocks, expressionless, lying there without saying a word. Apparently, the explosive diarrhea earlier had caused unimaginable damage to him. Not only physically, but also mental trauma, because in the wolf pack, he had always been an imposing image of a fierce and ruthless alpha male. But now, all his images were destroyed. His gaze was empty. "Boss, my condition is not that severe. After a little recovery, it's much better now. I think I can escape. As long as I can contact the other brothers, we still have a chance. Are you sure you have the strength?" The werewolf with rashes gritted his teeth. Yes. Taking advantage of the moment when the guard's attention shifted, hundreds of wolves immediately rioted. "Run!" In an instant, the werewolf with rashes, with unimaginable speed, gritting his teeth, rushed into the darkness of the town without looking back, heading towards the distant woods. With their wild instincts, as long as they could enter the dark forest, with their familiarity with the environment, no one could catch up with them. Crack, crack, the sound of gunfire echoed from the darkness. Accompanied by powerful holy spells from several priests, those rioting werewolves were suppressed within a few minutes. Their bodies weakened by illness, they were no match for the townspeople. In the darkness outside the town, the werewolf with rashes was panting, running on all fours, heading out of the town at the fastest speed, towards the distant mountains. With their wild instincts, as long as they could charge into the dark forest, with their familiarity with the environment, no one could catch up with them. Crunch, stepping on a branch of a large tree, the werewolf suddenly leaped down, landing on a vast grassland. But just as he wanted to continue forward, suddenly, a chilling breath swept over his body suddenly, making his scalp numb. He stood there in shock, looking ahead, only to see white mist billowed from the front black fog, surging in waves, black and white intertwined, appearing particularly eerie. And in that mist, a dark figure faintly emerged, holding a staff, wearing a tall hat, and a long bird beak mask. In the surging white mist, the figure appeared and disappeared, giving people a creepy feeling. That is, the werewolf retreated with a pale face, his whole body freezing. Clang, clang, the sound of bells ringing from the darkness, making the surrounding atmosphere even more eerie and cold. Outside of town, the hunters who had just been tracking the footsteps of the werewolf abruptly looked up, and instantly heard a sharp scream coming from the forest. A crow flew up from the forest. They were all shocked. An indescribable uneasiness swept over their bodies. White mist. A hunter looked up, with a slightly pale face, staring at the rising white mist in the forest, instantly thinking of something, and his body trembled slightly. Night Doctor. Yes, there was absolutely no mistake. It must be them. It must be because they sensed the presence of the werewolves that they were attracted here. In the town, accompanied by one anesthetized girl after another being carried out of Lin's clinic, Lin's surgery was also approaching its conclusion. At this moment, the hunter who had gone out chasing the werewolf hurriedly ran back. They quickly whispered a few words in the mayor's ear. The mayor's brows furrowed tightly, saying, "I overlooked this. Those lunatics are very interested in the curses inside these werewolves. If there is a large gathering of werewolves, it will definitely attract their attention. But I didn't expect them to come so quickly." He dared not delay and immediately turned around, saying heavily, "Immediately notify everyone to move to the underground of the church. Without my order, absolutely do not come out. Dr. Lin, is your surgery finished?" Creak. Lin opened the door, threw the blood-stained gloves aside, and smiled, saying, "It's almost done." "What happened?" The mayor walked in quickly, closed the door, and said with a serious expression, "Our scouts just got news. They found the movements of the night doctors outside the town." At these words, Lin's eyes lit up. They finally appeared. Outside, on the open square, one after another, people looked palely toward the north. The thick white mist slowly and strangely began to engulf the outskirts of the town, gradually spreading towards them. And not only the residents of the town. Even the weakened werewolves on the square also showed expressions of fear. That is, the Wolf King finally regained his senses, tremblingly staring at the rolling white mist. Night doctors. A hunter's lips trembled, all the hair on his body standing on end. And just at the next moment, "Run!" A loud roar. The guards and townspeople around the square immediately panicked and rushed towards the church in the town. Even the werewolves on the square, in a state of panic, dragged their weakened bodies and fled in all directions. They feared the night doctors more than anyone else, because once the night doctors encountered them, they would undoubtedly dissect them and then reassemble them. If successful, it would be fine. But if it failed, they would become monsters neither alive nor dead. This was even more terrifying than death. "Quick, doctor, come with me to the church to hide. Whatever your considerations, just survive this first." But just as he pushed the door open, the rolling white mist instantly spread in. Several werewolves rushed in fear, completely ignoring the fact that they were mortal enemies. Faintly, one could hear the constant sound of falling outside. Obviously, many werewolves failed to find shelter in time, being knocked down one after another by the dense white mist. Lin looked out the window, and in an instant, the system's introduction appeared before his eyes. Contains a special medicinal vapor with formidable toxicity. Large doses in contact can cause the target to lose mobility in a short period. Due to certain strange ingredients, even puppets, machinery, and undead will be affected indiscriminately. So, this is how the night doctors make their entrance. The mayor said solemnly, "It's just one of the ways. If they think there are a large number of creatures that need their treatment and are not cooperating, they will use this method. Doctor, I must remind you, they really aren't as good as you imagine. In their eyes, all living beings need treatment, even those labeled healed by them. If you encounter another night doctor, there's a high probability they will diagnose and treat you again." The mayor slowly clenched his teeth, saying, "They are a group of self-righteous, evil lunatics." Lin pondered upon hearing this, leaned against the wall, and raised his head. "Let's observe the situation first." The mayor held onto Lin's wrist urgently, took out a few small bottles from his pocket, and handed them to Lin, saying, "Doctor, take this. If the night doctors find us, you must drink it immediately." As soon as he touched them, the introduction of these bottles appeared before Lin's eyes. Liquid extracted from the body of a slime containing deadly poison. The mayor said seriously, "Poison, it's the potion we use here to deal with the night doctors. If you encounter them, make sure to put yourself in a near-death state as soon as possible. In this way, the night doctors will go all out to heal you. After they heal you, they probably won't doubt whether you still have other diseases. If you attract them without being sick, you better pray you really have some illness." He clenched his teeth, because facing them, having an illness was far more terrifying than being healthy. Because with an illness, they would treat you, but without an illness, they would find one for you. And the process of finding an illness, that was truly worse than death. A deathly silence. In this moment, the people inside the house suddenly heard, as if not far from the house where they were hiding, faint sounds of cutting. It was as if someone was using a knife to dismember a corpse, one cut at a time. The few werewolves hiding inside instantly became stiff, their eyes trembling, holding their breath, not daring to move, because they probably knew. Those must be the werewolves who didn't manage to hide inside and were discovered by the night doctor undergoing healing. their comrades, but they dared not make a sound, nor did they dare to rush out. Because the Night Doctor's methods were swift and violent, it might take only a few minutes for them to dissect you and then reassemble you. Hold your breath, they're here, the mayor urgently reminded. Everyone in the room covered their mouths and noses, trembling against the walls. Outside, mysterious footsteps gradually approached. The shadow of a beak slowly reflected from the window into the room. Plop, plop, the entire room fell into a silence. Only the intense heartbeat could be heard. They could all feel that at this moment, the Night Doctor was just outside the window, only a wall away from them. Clearly, during this time, the werewolves who didn't manage to hide inside must have been healed by the Night Doctor. Slowly, as they trembled in anticipation, the long shadow cast from outside the window moved slowly and then disappeared from their sight. Everyone in the room couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. But just as they were about to relax, dong, 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 3 slow, rhythmic knocks came from the direction of the door. The hearts of the people around once again rose to their throats. Right outside the door, the Night Doctor was right outside. The surroundings fell silent. Everyone held their breath, not daring to say a word. After the knocks, the outside fell into an eerie silence again. Slowly, they heard the sound of footsteps moving away. It continued until the footsteps faded away. The werewolf leaning against the opposite wall trembled and asked, "Did the Night Doctor not find us?" But just as he finished speaking, a hand wearing black leather gloves suddenly extended from above his shoulder like a ghost, and then firmly gripped his cheek. Whoosh! The werewolf let out a terrified scream. But before he could reach out, his whole body, like a ghost, was instantly pulled out of the wall by that hand. The people in the room all had a drastic change in their expressions. Oh no! From the other side of the wall quickly came the sounds of chopping and cutting, accompanied by the sharp screams of the werewolf, intensely stirring the nerves of everyone present. At this moment, the remaining 2 werewolves, less affected by the mist, finally lost their composure. They forcefully got up, pushed open the door, and anxiously rushed into the white mist. Run, run quickly, but obviously, fear made them make a terribly wrong decision. Just a few steps outside, they heard the thumping sound of falling. The mayor quickly rushed over, gritted his teeth, and forcefully closed the door. And without a second word, he immediately took out a potent venomous liquid and drank it directly. He shouted, "Quick! They've found us, drink the potion." The guards also turned pale, hurriedly took out the potions, and were about to drink them. But one guard's hand trembled. The potion slipped from his grasp, falling to the ground, and the black liquid quickly evaporated. His mind went blank, but his excellent reflexes allowed him to make a decision immediately. He gritted his teeth, pulled out a blade, and stabbed his chest with several quick thrusts. Lin, ruthless. This was undoubtedly a ruthless person. Almost at the moment he stabbed himself, the sounds of cutting and stitching outside the door also ceased. The entire room was suffocating. Then slowly, a hand emerged from the wall. Under the trembling gaze of everyone, a tall figure wearing a black leather outfit, with a high top hat and a bird mask, slowly walked in from outside the wall like a ghost, appearing in their sight. Ding 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 ding. Notifications appeared, indicating a significant drop in sanity. Finally, Lin could see his appearance clearly. Stitched human. Lawful good. A doctor who walks in the dark, not fond of combat. A group of doctors walking in the dark, dedicated to saving all suffering creatures in the dark world. They protect, they heal, they redeem. They are enemies of plague and curse, embodiments of goodness and love, excellent surgeons who can heal all your diseases. Lin was amazed. The executor with the bird mask glanced at everyone in the room, and a dark atmosphere spread around. Then his gaze fell on the pale mayor and the guards who had taken the potent poison. "It is a sin to mistreat your body. You made me feel shame and anger for you, but I will still heal your wounds." A gentle voice echoed from the bird mask. Then he floated to the front of the pale mayor, extended a sharp finger, and pierced the mayor's stomach. A sound of flesh being penetrated. The mayor trembled violently, gripping his staff tightly. But faintly, it could be seen that the black aura on his face was slowly gathering towards his stomach. Strands of black, viscous liquid climbed up the Night Doctor's finger, peeling off from his body. Pain is a healing medicine. It keeps you awake. Along with the last strand of black aura being drawn out by the finger, the black aura on the mayor's face finally completely faded away. Watching this scene, Lin's eyes widened in astonishment. "Thank you." The mayor trembled and cleared his throat. The executor with the bird mask withdrew his finger, and in the mirrored lenses of his mask, blood flowed down from his stomach. No one saw how he moved his hand, Just a slight movement of his finger. The mayor's chest and abdomen were precisely slashed open, and it was in the pale and trembling gaze of the mayor that the night doctor took out a sharp needle and thread. At a dazzling speed, he quickly stitched up the wound on the mayor's stomach. It wasn't until the stitching was complete that the mayor could finally relax, trembling. Your body has the protection of divine power. The dark curse has not eroded your soul. You are pure and immaculate. The night doctor extended his hand and lightly touched the mayor's shoulders and chest, expressing respect. Elegant and terrifying. The pale mayor said, "May the Lord bless you, amen." Amen. The night doctor didn't linger, turned around, and used the same method to heal another guard who had taken the potent poison. Then, his gaze fell on the warrior who had stabbed himself more than a dozen times. "Are you afraid of me? So you mutilate your own body. I disdain you for that, but I will still heal you, not just your knife wounds." He crouched in front of the trembling guard, extending sharp nails and tapping on his forehead. "Your wounds are obvious, and besides that, there is a hidden tumor inside your skull. It makes you tired and irritable. You have been injured by werewolves, and the curse has started spreading in your body. It's just that you haven't discovered it yet." As these words came out, the guard turned pale. "You are sick and need healing." Before the guard could speak, the finger tapping on his forehead gradually pierced into his skull, and crimson fresh blood gushed out. A scream of extreme misery. But under the bird mask of the night doctor, a white mist sprayed out instantly, silencing him quickly. "Pain is proof of your existence. Be at ease, and you will be healed." Under the pale gaze of the surrounding people, the night doctor's finger slashed open the guard's skull from his forehead. Rising heat surged from the brain. The finger moved gently. The brain was moved aside, finding the small tumor mentioned in his mouth. With exquisite precision, the night doctor cut off the tumor, applied medication to assist, and completed a perfect cranial surgery without any unnecessary movements. Lin was stunned. Perfect, outstanding, flawless. Indeed, what the teacher said was true. The night doctor is undoubtedly the most skilled medical organization in this dark world. He didn't even use a knife. Just a few careful steps, and he completed a perfect cranial surgery. Crack, crack. The two sides of the skull were slowly closed by him. Silver white threads, like tiny insects, intricately climbed and spread rapidly on his scalp, perfectly sewing the skull back together. Then, his gaze fell on his right foot. Stab. A movement of the finger. The guard's entire pant leg and shoe were instantly split in two, and immediately it revealed the densely packed black wolf fur. Seeing this scene, the expression of the mayor also changed drastically. The curse has not completely spread. The divine power in your body has restrained the werewolf curse from further invading you. But the dark world has already marked you with a sign of disaster. You need healing. A flash of blood. The guard's left leg was instantly severed. A scream that echoed through the sky. Under the horrified gaze of everyone, the wolf fur on his left foot was quickly removed, revealing a festering wound on his foot, evidently the position where he was cursed. The night doctor extended his sharp finger, rapidly engraving a complex rune at the wound, accompanied by the flickering of the rune, injecting it into the wound. And surprisingly, that already transformed left foot quickly transformed back, ultimately becoming a living human foot. But immediately after, a horrifying scene unfolded. The night doctor actually pulled out a surgical knife from his waistband and, in front of everyone, began chopping the foot into pieces. The sanity values of the onlookers plummeted. Then Lin saw the night doctor take out a bottle of white, bone-like liquid from his pocket and evenly applied it to every piece of broken flesh and bone. Lin instantly recognized the epic-level potion. Following the night doctor's rapid stitching, the left foot was once again restored in a stitched manner. "You have been healed." The lenses of the bird mask calmly reflected the pale face of the guard. Then, he turned his head, and his gaze fell on Lin, who was obviously different from the surroundings. Eye contact. A brief silence. "Colleague." The night doctor hesitated. "Colleague." He squinted his eyes, not saying anything, but slowly extended his sharp hand, pressing it on Lin's pulse. In an instant, his fingers trembled slightly. Then he stared deeply at Lin, saying, "Fellow colleague, you are quite ill." Lin smiled earnestly. "How so?" The night doctor frowned, saying, "There are abnormal severe mutations in your body. A mysterious consciousness has born in your left hand. Extreme distortion of flesh and blood genetics, severe after effects of heavy drug use, a significant reconstruction of the body. The heart is not originally yours. There is also an abnormal curse within, and mentally, there's a bit of pathology." The night doctor stared deeply at him. "Even traces of evil spirits linger on your body." As soon as this statement came out, everyone around was shocked, looking at Lin with incomparable astonishment. The night doctor squinted, saying, "You are the first patient I have seen who combines mutation, curse, evil spirits, parasitism, and flesh transformation all in one body. You are not lightly ill. You are like a humanoid squeezed out of an illness." Lin closed his eyes. "Thank you for the compliment. To receive such a professional evaluation from a night doctor, I truly admire it." Then he opened his eyes, smiling. "I know your code of conduct as night doctors. To be honest, I came here this time to seek an opportunity to join you." As soon as this statement came out, the mayor and others behind him all trembled. He actually said it. Didn't the terrifying treatment of the night doctor earlier dissuade him from this idea? The night doctor's gaze remained calm, indifferent, overlooking him. "Oh, what ability do you have that makes you think you can join us?" Lin raised his head, smiling. "I can learn other abilities, but there's one ability I believe I might not be inferior to you, or I might even surpass you." Polite and confident in his smile, the night doctor squinted, the lenses reflecting his cheeks, saying, "Oh, what is it?" Lin smiled. "Diagnostic ability." Instantly, the surroundings fell silent. Everyone held their breath, choking as they looked at the teenager who dared to confront the night doctor. After a while, the night doctor squinted, saying, "Diagnosis. Are you joking?" Lin smiled. "No, I'm not joking. In fact, when you touched my wrist just now, I diagnosed several illnesses on your body, quite a few of them. You are not less sick than me." The night doctor suddenly felt a great insult and anger, but he wasn't angry. Instead, he squinted his eyes. "Oh, I'm curious. My entire set of equipment isolates me perfectly from the outside world. I want to hear how you diagnosed me and where I'm sick." His gaze became somewhat dangerous. Lin curled his lips, saying, "My diagnostic method is simple. As long as we've had contact, and if I'm willing, I can diagnose all the illnesses on your body." As soon as this statement came out, a sneer sounded under the night doctor's mask. Obviously, he found Lin's words extremely absurd. "No need to hurry. Let's start with a few small ones." Lin picked up his notebook, using a feather pen to record. "Have you felt any discomfort in your stomach recently? Is this your diagnosis?" "Sorry, I haven't needed the digestive system to support my digestion and movement for many years. So, unfortunately, I have to remind you that there is a large cyst growing on your intestines, and it is spreading continuously. It's very dangerous." As soon as these words were spoken, the night doctor burst into laughter as if he had heard the funniest joke. "A cyst? You're saying I have a cyst? Fellow professional, even if it's a fabrication, please be more professional. The digestive system is a sensitive organ, and any discomfort would quickly manifest with various symptoms. If I had any issues, why don't I feel anything?" Buzz, almost at the moment he finished speaking, his eyes suddenly became hollow, because he immediately felt it. A severe pain instantly shot from his abdomen to his brain. "This is impossible." He trembled. Lin smiled. "I suggest you take a look for yourself." The doctor, filled with hesitation, had cold sweat dripping down his forehead inside the mask. He stared at his abdomen. He extended a sharp finger. Stab. His abdominal skin and flesh were cut open in an instant. And at the moment he pulled out his intestines, his pupils suddenly contracted because he actually saw cysts appearing on his small intestine. He stood up abruptly. "This is impossible." Trembling, he looked at the cysts on his intestines and said, "Even if there were any abnormal changes in my body, I would have noticed them immediately, and cysts like these cannot form in a short time. I just had a full body checkup 7 days ago." He turned abruptly, glaring at Lin. "Did you do something?" Lin remained calm. "Please calm down. As for how the cysts appeared, I'm not sure. I'm only responsible for informing you of my diagnosis. Since we are both doctors, you should know that accusing your fellow doctor without evidence is very impolite." Honestly, he indeed had the ability to directly induce symptoms, as it was one of his abilities. However, similar to the last diagnosis for the lizard person, he only used the passive effect of his random diagnostic technique and didn't actively induce it. In other words, if his diagnostic technique was accurate, these were his own medical conditions. The night doctor, biting his teeth, sat back down, swiftly removing the cysts from his intestines, treating and suturing himself in a fast and urgent manner. "The first symptom seems like you can handle it yourself. Let me tell you about the second symptom I diagnosed. Your second illness is severe alopecia." The night doctor, in the process of sewing his intestines, stiffened. The surroundings fell silent. The mayor and others sat there in a daze, unable to utter a word. "You're kidding." The night doctor was furious. Lin calmly said, "Take a look first. If I'm wrong, you can kill me later." "Alopecia? You say I have alopecia?" The night doctor was genuinely angry this time, grabbing his bird beak mask. Fine, I'll show you whether I have alopecia or not. He was really angry this time, because this was ridiculous. Before the trip, he had just taken care of his perfect hair. Not to mention alopecia, even a single strand breaking was absolutely impossible. In a fit of rage, he grabbed the mask and hat, unzipping them. Instantly, countless hairs scattered. Under the dim light, a shiny bald head reflected faint glimmers. It's really bald. The mayor was astonished. The night doctor, in a daze, stiffly sat there holding the bird beak mask. He instinctively reached out to touch his head. Smooth. Accidentally touching his eyebrows. Eyebrows fell off in an instant. His gaze instantly became hollow. This is impossible. Now let's talk about the third symptom. This illness may be a bit tricky, so be mentally prepared. The night doctor blankly, what? Lin looked at him seriously. A certain part of your body seems to have undergone some minor changes. It seems to have its own thoughts. Just when the night doctor wasn't sure what she meant. Suddenly, bang, a muffled sound. The night doctor instantly. And then, bang, another loud noise. Everyone around looked bewildered. Only the night doctor stared blankly, and cold sweat dripped rapidly from his face. What's that sound? Lin hesitated. The night doctor, hollow-eyed, said, I'm wearing iron underwear. Time passed quickly. Soon, half an hour later, creak, the door suddenly pushed open from the inside, only to see the night doctor with the bird beak mask trembling, using a crutch to move his body with difficulty, supporting himself on the doorpost. He walked out laboriously. Compared to the mysterious and powerful figure when he first arrived in the town, he now looked visibly weakened. Don't go. Wait for me. I'll call someone. Wait for me. Wait for me to call someone to deal with you. The night doctor gasped, using the crutch, moving as if he were a patient on the brink of death, limping. Lin, sympathetically wanting to help. Don't touch me. The night doctor widened his eyes, trembling, swiftly avoiding 2 steps to the side as if dodging a plague. Lin worriedly said, Do you really have to go back? I'm genuinely concerned about your health. Don't worry, these diseases won't be fatal. The night doctor impatiently moved forward, pale, quickly advancing. To treat the illnesses he diagnosed for himself, he had used up all the potions he brought and even resorted to cutting himself. But there were still 4 or 5 conditions unresolved. Plague, perfectly fine before the diagnosis, and now, so many diseases after a diagnosis. Who could tolerate this? There must be a problem. This guy must have a big problem. He had to hurry back, call more people from the base, and preferably bring all the equipment for anti-curses and anti-diseases. You wait. If you have the ability, just wait. Wait until I call someone. Wait until I call someone to come and deal with you. He hurriedly walked forward, uttering threats continuously. In the room, the mayor and others stared blankly at this scene, mouths wide open, unable to say a word. Because this was something they never expected. Because the night doctor was always a mysterious and powerful figure in their eyes. And today, they actually saw a night doctor being scared away. And in their own professional field, they turned to look at the smiling young man by their side, and their brains buzzed. Dr. Lin, do you really want to stay here? Didn't you hear him say he's going to call someone? Of course, I have to stay, because I still need their approval. How can I become a qualified night doctor like them without their recognition? The mayor's mind buzzed, subconsciously swallowing saliva, but he always felt he already was one. A few dozen minutes later, in the center of the square, in the distance, black mist surged. They suddenly trembled and immediately saw, in the direction outside the town, 4 figures slowly emerging. All wearing bird beak masks, all with black hats, all in black robes. They're here. The mayor's face turned pale. 4 night doctors. All the townspeople subconsciously took a few steps back, as they were seeing so many night doctors in one place for the first time. A strong wind surged. Those 4 night doctors appeared on the square like ghosts, and in the blink of an eye, they were on the square. Lin's mouth curled up. Welcome, please have a seat. It's him. The mask of the night doctor at the back emitted a gnashing sound. He extended a hand wearing black leather gloves, pointing at Lin in front of him. Facing the 3 tall bird-beaked figures in front of him, he said in a deep voice, This guy is very strange. I was perfectly healthy, but after he diagnosed me, my body suddenly developed dozens of symptoms. My body was fine. If I had any hidden illness, wouldn't I have noticed it? It must be him doing something to me when he touched my body. He gritted his teeth, full of anger and rhetoric, pointing firmly at Lin. My 20 is not behaving now. Bang! A muffled impact, echoing his words, made his body jump. This has been going on for a while now, and it's getting worse. His colleagues advised him to just cut it off, but he couldn't swallow this anger. Brief silence. The leader of the bird-beaked night doctors remained silent. Night Doctor, Raven. Race, Crow person. Alignment, lawful good. Level. The introduction was similar, but obviously, this night doctor's level was higher than the previous one, because there were subtle differences in both address and attire. I heard that you cursed and plagued our people. The Raven sat slowly in the chair opposite Lin. A slightly sharp yet steady voice emanated from his mask. His gaze was very dangerous. You can't just say that. I am a principal doctor. How could I do such malicious things? Just because a doctor diagnosed you with some conditions you don't want to accept, you can't just slander your doctor. Lin's words were logical and well-founded. Those who listened couldn't help but be convinced. Nonsense. The executor night doctor, embarrassed and angry, slammed the table heavily, saying, "You don't need to pretend. I can see at a glance that you are not human. I know you are a plague doctor. You came here to show off your power to us, didn't you?" Lin was startled and said, "Plague doctor? What's that?" Seeing Lin's confused look, the Raven night doctor slowly extended his hand, gesturing for the night doctor beside him to step back, and stared quietly at Lin's face. His tone was calm, not as impulsive as the other night doctor, explaining, "A group of traitors who were once members of our night doctors. They betrayed their ideals, split from the night doctor group, and no longer saved the world. Instead, they spread terrible plagues and curses across the land." The lenses on his mask reflected a dark and mysterious light. "They are constantly trying to divide and destroy us, so please don't take my colleague's suspicion to heart. He is just doing his duty." "I see. I didn't expect that there would be such evil existences in this world. Doctors who don't focus on treating and saving people, but instead poison and harm them. It's simply unforgivable." Some werewolves in the distance were trembling, almost about to cry. The Raven squinted his eyes, looking at Lin's cheeks, and said, "It seems you don't understand this. To be honest, I rarely travel far, and my information is a bit limited. I came here because I heard that being a night doctor is a profession dedicated to bringing happiness and well-being to everyone. So, can you provide me with an opportunity to become a night doctor?" Lin was very polite. The several night doctors glanced at each other, facing each other. The executor, with an angry expression, whispered, "Mr. Raven, don't agree to him. This guy is very strange. I think we should take him down first, investigate his identity, and then..." But before he finished speaking, Raven calmly interrupted. "Enough. Executor, have you forgotten our principles?" The executor trembled, then lowered his head, pounding his chest with one hand, his gaze flickering. "No, Mr. Raven, I remember it well. The earth needs healing. The eternal night needs to end. We heal, we protect, we redeem. We follow the justice in our hearts and give healing to every creature, never allowing prejudice and arrogance under our surgical knives." Raven gazed deeply at Lin, saying, "If you want to join us, it's not a simple matter. We must determine if you have the qualities and abilities to face the invasion of this dark night. I heard he said you have a very strong diagnostic ability. Even just by touching the other party, you can discover all the symptoms in their body." Lin became serious, sitting upright, smiling. "Not necessarily all, but most should not be a problem." The executor closed his eyes, grinding his teeth, visibly upset. A glint of depth flashed in Raven's lens. He lightly tapped the table with his fingers. "All right, I am willing to give you a chance." The executor shook suddenly, astonished. "Mr. Raven." Raven extended his hand to stop him and lifted his bird-beaked mask. He slightly raised a finger, and a faint light flashed from his fingertip. He calmly said, "I just released a virus into my body. This virus is very secretive. If it hides in the human body for a long time, it will have a very bad impact." He placed his hand on the table. "Since you claim to have a special diagnostic ability, I am willing to give you this chance. Within 10 minutes, as long as you can accurately state the location of the wound where I injected the virus, the distribution of the virus, and the adverse reactions caused by the virus, I will acknowledge your qualification." He took off his gloves, revealing long claws that seemed to be a combination of crow and human hands, with only 4 fingers and sharp nails gleaming mysteriously. This was not just a test, but also a challenge, because for a normal doctor, diagnosing only by touch and pulse, without blood tests or other verification methods, was simply unbelievable. And more importantly, the virus he just injected into his body had not fully manifested its effects on various aspects of the body. This undoubtedly increased the difficulty of the diagnosis. So, as long as I can diagnose the virus accurately, I can become a member of the Night Doctors. Raven said calmly, "Young man, don't aim too high. But if you really can, I will recommend you in my name." This statement was made. Lin said seriously. Okay. Lin reached out, calmly placing her hand on his wrist. Almost in that instant of contact, before the surrounding people could react, Lin frowned, then quickly relaxed, retracting her hand, saying seriously, "The results are out." As soon as these words were spoken, all the townspeople behind him were in awe. Even the two night doctors behind the Raven were momentarily stunned, then looked at each other. "Are you sure?" A night doctor hesitated and said, "I advise you to think it over. This is your only chance." The virus is named Leech. This is a virus extracted from the venom of a highly toxic swamp blood leech in the dark world, combined with the secretion of evil spirits, diffusive spore dust, poisonous death noodle vine, and more than a dozen mysterious substances. This virus is highly secretive. Small doses of infection won't have any impact on the host, but it can quickly spread to the target's brain over time and hide. If some special catalysts are added, this can even become an extremely secretive weapon. Through a specific triggering method, sometimes just a snap of the fingers can make the virus inside the recipient go into full-blown chaos. It's not just a virus, it's also a powerful weapon for killing. Listening to Lin's eloquent speech, the expressions of the two night doctors behind the Raven became more and more shocked, and even instinctively took a step back. Even the executor, standing there in astonishment, couldn't say a word. Only the Raven stared firmly at Lin, waiting for him to finish. The basic introduction of the virus is complete. Now, let me explain the questions you specified just now. First, the location where you injected the virus is 3 inches above your right wrist joint. You didn't inject much virus, but it concentrated on that area of the skin on your arm. So, the virus accumulation caused you some adverse reactions. The location where you injected the virus on your right arm has already developed slight red rash. It makes you feel unusually itchy and stinging, am I right? Silence enveloped the surroundings. Behind him, the townspeople all stared with gaping mouths at the courteous and confident young man. They didn't understand, but they felt that he was impressive and very professional. Ding. Congratulations, you triggered the achievement, Professional Lecturer. You gained 200 basic experience points. Special achievement, Professional Lecturer. There is a chance to gain this achievement by flawlessly reciting the text provided by the system in a fluent manner on any occasion, while maintaining a mysterious and professional appearance. Lin maintained a calm smile on his face, but if you looked closely, you could see the veins pulsating on his temples. But those night doctors didn't notice this. They all looked towards the Raven, their breaths slightly hurried, seeking answers. "Sir, what he said." The Raven squinted his eyes and said, "Exactly right." Buzz. All 3 night doctors behind him were shocked, their eyes showing obvious disbelief and shock. What kind of joke is this? Because they were very clear that this virus was a special one developed by Mr. Raven recently, and it hadn't even been reported yet. Even they only knew about some of the purposes of this virus. And this human actually, did he really just touch Mr. Raven's body and see so many details about the virus? The Raven lifted his head, narrowed his eyes, and said, "Impressive. Indeed impressive. It seems that the executor was right. You do possess unimaginable diagnostic abilities." Lin smiled and said, "You flatter me." But before he could finish his words, the Raven's tone changed, becoming indifferent. "However, you clearly missed some symptoms. I'll tell you the truth. Besides the itching caused by the rash on my right arm, my back is also experiencing intense itching and stinging." He stood up, indifferent. "You underestimated the spreading ability of this virus and its adverse reactions. It seems your diagnostic abilities still need further refinement." He slowly put on his black gloves, pressed down his top hat, and was about to turn around. But as soon as he turned around, Lin's smiling voice sounded behind him. "Mr. Raven, my diagnosis didn't miss anything because what I said earlier was just specifically about diagnosing the virus you injected yourself with. The intense itching and stinging on your back are not entirely caused by this virus." Buzz. The Raven's body suddenly froze in place. He picked up the quill, opened the notebook. "What I said just now was only the first symptom I diagnosed for you, the virus you injected yourself with. Next, let me explain the second symptom I diagnosed for you." He briskly began to record, speaking confidently. "Perhaps because you often experiment with the virus named Leech on your own body, you may not have noticed it yourself. But the hair follicles on your skin have already shown latent lesions and necrosis. And the widespread itching and stinging on your back is because the virus you injected yourself with just now triggered the toxins hidden in the hair follicles on your skin. Like a catalyst, an incentive, causing those toxins hidden in your body to be rapidly awakened. If I guess correctly, is the itching on your back already starting to spread to new areas, such as?" Lin calmly shook the quill. "Your buttocks." The two night doctors next to the Raven instantly stared blankly. They looked at the stiff Raven in amazement, murmuring, "Mr. Raven." Lin smiled. "This is the second symptom. I suggest you immediately remove the virus you injected into your body just now. Otherwise, the necrosis of the hair follicles on your back is a minor issue. If you let the virus sneak into your brain in hiding, then it will be troublesome." The Raven stiffened all over. Silence enveloped the surroundings. The next moment, he abruptly reached out, his fingers trembling, hurriedly and quickly unbuttoning the buttons on his leather jacket, quickly pulling it open. Facing the three night doctors beside him, he shouted anxiously, "Quick, help me take it off." As soon as he said this, the three night doctors were shocked all over, finally realizing that something was wrong. They immediately rushed forward, quickly taking off the Raven's all-black leather clothes, revealing the body covered with densely packed black feathers. And one of the night doctors immediately saw it. Under the feathers on the Raven's back, there were indeed numerous tiny red dots, and the originally glossy and beautiful feathers had also become dull and lusterless. "How is it?" The Raven immediately frowned and asked. The three night doctors were anxious, because they were indeed accurately predicted by that human. "The situation is very bad, Mr. Raven. The red dots on your back are rapidly spreading, as if it is indeed the adverse symptoms caused by the leech virus. Sir, you need treatment." Upon seeing this scene, the three night doctors clenched their teeth and immediately reached out, grabbing the feathers on the Raven's back. They nodded to each other with determination. In the next moment, pluck, 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 a sudden, unexpected, and terrified scream of pain. The Raven spread his arms, his entire body spasming from the unexpectedly violent feather plucking. For avian beings like the Raven, plucking feathers was a kind of indescribable torture. The Raven trembled, but he didn't lose his composure. He quickly gritted his teeth, removed his bird beak mask, revealing a strange face combining human and crow features. Gurgle. He quickly drank a bottle of potent medicine to suppress the leech virus. He gritted his teeth and turned, saying, "Immediately take the topical medicine from my medical kit. Quickly." Yes, the three night doctors, at this moment, displayed excellent medical skills. They swiftly took out ointments and syringes, placed the Raven on a bench, exposing his back. One of the night doctors gritted his teeth and said, "Mr. Raven, the situation is urgent. We need to start, endure it a bit." Squirt, squirt, squirt. Under the astonished gaze of the surrounding townspeople, one of the night doctors, with unimaginable speed, injected the antivirus medication into the Raven's back, puncturing one needle after another. "Sir, we also need to further remove your feathers. Endure it a bit more. Wait. Pluck, pluck, pluck. Even if there were residual toxins of the leech virus in my hair follicles, why did it suddenly erupt when you diagnosed me? Did you curse me? Sir, I can swear to the heavens, it's definitely not me playing tricks. This is a hidden ailment I genuinely diagnosed in your body, because I came to join the night doctors, not to cause trouble. If I really played tricks on you, what would I gain? It wouldn't benefit me at all." The Raven, enduring the pain of having his feathers plucked, bit his teeth tightly, but upon careful consideration, what he said did make some sense. Moreover, when he touched himself, he indeed didn't find any signs of curses or plagues invading his body. "Although I know it's not the right time, let me tell you about the fourth disease I diagnosed. This disease is not very serious, and originally I wanted to cross it out. However, I felt that it might be a bit unprofessional to do so. The fourth disease is pluck." At the same time, the night doctor took off the Raven's two boots, and precisely at the moment of taking off the boots, an explosively strong and pungent foot odor, like a gas bomb, suddenly rushed, instantly sending the night doctor who took off the boots flying more than 10 meters away. Wow, because he didn't expect such a thing. His bird beak gas mask didn't activate, and under such a close impact, the strong foot odor rushed into his mask. Whoosh, like being instantly bathed in gas that had undergone prolonged fermentation. This smell. His body heavily fell more than 10 meters away. Lin took out a clip, pinched his nose, and thoughtfully said, "Explosive foot odor, because the smell is quite intense, so I don't recommend showcasing it in crowded places." Everyone on the entire square was not spared. Their faces turned purple, all vomiting out their overnight meals at once. On the spot, the three recovered night doctors bit their teeth, glaring at Lin as if he were their father's enemy. That look almost wished to tear him into pieces. "I can't take it anymore." The executor clenched his fists tightly, tremblingly looking at Lin in the distance, saying, "Let me kill him, let me avenge Mr. Raven." Don't be impulsive. Even if we kill him now, it's just a physical elimination. There's no way to suppress his arrogance this way. Killing him will only make us look like we can't afford to lose. At this moment, they no longer considered that the guy had come to seek to join their organization, because it was obviously here to stir up trouble. Undead skeleton. Lawful neutral. Killed too many, now reformed. A corpse that fell from an unknown world to the dark world. The flesh has long rotted. Only the skeleton remains. Once slaughtered countless dark creatures, later converted by the Night Doctor group, became a Night Doctor dedicated to bringing happiness and beauty to the world. Due to his unique body, he once became the vanguard against epidemic doctors. The flames in his eyes burned. He hoarsely said, "Prove your abilities by diagnosing me with some diseases." Lin looked at his panel and then shifted his gaze to the figure in front of him, rubbing his somewhat tired eyes and letting out a sigh. Undead. Turns out, it's an undead Night Doctor. He helplessly shrugged and smiled. "Senior, that's not quite right. It's not that I diagnosed you with an illness, it's that you have an illness, so I was able to diagnose it. The sequence is crucial." Brain. Her voice echoed in Lin's mind. "During this time, have you been using your ability to inflict diseases on them?" Lefty's voice was filled with doubt. Lin smiled, turned his head, and looked at his left hand, saying in his mind, "Why would you say that?" Lefty seriously asked, "Because I think what he said is not entirely wrong. They are Night Doctors. Shouldn't they easily notice the health conditions I diagnosed for them? So, I'm asking, are you intentionally playing with them?" Unexpectedly, Lefty received a denial. "I'm not that bored. I've always used the passive effect of my diagnostic ability. I haven't inflicted diseases on them. It's just that there are too many hidden illnesses in their bodies, and I happened to diagnose them." Lefty was taken aback. Lin continued seriously, "So, I think this group of Night Doctors might not be as formidable as we imagine. I even find it somewhat amusing that they can't even detect diseases in their own bodies. How can they heal others? I'm starting to feel that coming to find them was a mistake. Don't you think so, Lefty? Their comical expressions when I discovered the illnesses in them were really funny." He revealed a smiling expression. Lefty, for some reason, shivered. Blackskull said deeply, "You can start anytime." Lin's face immediately showed a brilliant smile. "Good, I'll diagnose you now." Just as Lin was about to touch Blackskull's wrist, the executor's mind was suddenly filled with Blackskull's hoarse voice. "I have set up countermeasures against curses and diseases within my body. You observe him. Pay attention to his movements and changes in his body, especially regarding curses. See how he's inflicting diseases on me." The executor was shocked. Yes, without any hesitation, the lenses on the bird beak mask immediately switched to another mysterious mode, narrowing his eyes, staring fixedly at Lin. And it was precisely at the moment Lin's fingertip was about to touch Blackskull's wrist. He instantly saw a bizarre scene through the lenses. In that extremely short moment, the tip of the finger touching Blackskull's hand abruptly traced a fleeting halo. That should be a sign that his diagnostic ability was activated. But strangely, almost at the same time as that halo flashed, he was suddenly shocked to see a fleeting humanoid silhouette appearing on the smiling youth's body. A crying black and white clown. Ding 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 ding. A series of more than 10 prompts echoed in Lin's ears. Lin coughed and raised his head. "Esteemed senior, it seems like you are quite ill." The black-skulled figure suddenly stiffened. Almost the moment his hands touched the target's wrist to complete the diagnosis, he felt the abnormal changes occurring in his own body. He subconsciously moved his wrist slightly. Crack, a crisp sound of a joint breaking echoed. Diseases. His gaze suddenly became hollow. Even though he had just activated various counter curses and disease prevention measures in his body, he still had abnormal symptoms diagnosed. The countermeasures he initiated were not triggered. A leather jacket he wore, which significantly reduced curses and magical interference, showed no reaction. In other words, he genuinely diagnosed diseases in himself, not curses or interference. But how is that possible? And behind him, under the mask, the executor's face turned pale, because he saw that was a curse. But the curse didn't affect his target. It affected himself. When diagnosing Blackskull, that fleeting curse interfered with and altered his abilities. Blackskull said deeply, "Impressive. This is something I didn't expect. Even though I used anti-curses and anti-disease measures, you still managed to diagnose me with so many diseases without me realizing. Does causing pain and disease to others truly bring you satisfaction?" Lin's smile froze in place. "Clearly, it's your own diseases. Clearly, I found the symptoms for you. Clearly, you're really making me dislike you." Crack. His finger pressed into a hole in Blackskull's hand bone. "What are you doing?" The executor shouted, sharp fingers immediately thrusting towards Lin's wrist. Lin quickly withdrew his hand, the smile on his face even more dazzling, raising his hand. Sorry, just a small accident. Please don't mind. Suddenly, as if there was a momentary glitch, his smile froze in place like a painting. Then, he seemed a bit tired, furrowing his brows, rubbing his temples. A hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. Sorry, I seem to have done something wrong just now. Perhaps it's due to excessive mental energy consumption. I apologize if I've caused any harm. Senior, are you okay? He asked seriously. Black Skull hoarsely replied, I'm fine. Lin walked over, sitting at the table, rubbing his temples, continuously dropping eye drops, saying, Senior, where is your companion? Black Skull hoarsely replied, he went to take care of the doctor you diagnosed with a disease. He'll be back soon. Lin, still rubbing his temples, asked, So, do you still think I inflicted diseases on you? Black Skull solemnly said, No, it was too straightforward earlier. You are indeed outstanding. Your diagnostic ability has indeed discovered many malignancies that were already present in my body. Lin's smile became even brighter. It's truly wonderful to hear your approval and understanding. I thought you might be as stubborn as the two before. What about the other night doctors? When will they arrive? Black Skull hoarsely replied, They are on their way. If possible, they are also willing to let you diagnose them. That would be great. Lin continued to rub his eyes, his smile even more radiant. Time passed slowly. 10 minutes quickly went by. Lin sat in front of the chair, still vigorously dripping eye drops into his eyes. However, compared to before, his movements were noticeably restless. It was clear to see that a large amount of eye drops was flowing down his cheeks. I feel like I'm sick. I'm very tired, very restless. He raised his right hand, scratching his forehead. Black Skull asked, What are you restless about? Lin vigorously rubbed his eye sockets and said, Too many unhealthy patients. I feel like staying here is a waste of time. I should let more people know that they are sick. If you're sick, you need to be treated. They need to find a doctor, and you're a doctor. You can definitely cure your own illness, but others can't. Lin's eye-rubbing actions became more and more intense, more and more restless. I seem to be sick too. It feels like something crawling in my brain. I think I need to diagnose myself too. Wait. Black Skull immediately said heavily, If you feel uncomfortable, I can help you diagnose. No, I can do it myself. Lin grinned. In an instant, the aura of the random diagnosis technique flashed and disappeared. Ding ding ding. A series of system prompts echoed in his ears. It seems like I've changed a lot. I'm becoming a bit confused. He suddenly grinned in a psychotic manner, vaguely opening his own character panel. Chaotic evil. Confusion, unable to display. Confusion, unable to display. Past and present clerk of the Bloodsaw Apothecary. Chaotic abyss, a kind and chaotic human apprentice. Eternal silence of sinking. Confusion, unable to display. Sure enough, I've changed. I shouldn't waste time here. I have more patients who need my diagnosis. I can't waste any more time. He turned around suddenly, looking at the bewildered townspeople in the square from a distance, revealing a smile that made people extremely uncomfortable. I think everyone needs my diagnosis. Black Skull's eyes suddenly burned with raging soul fire. He hoarsely said, But I think you'd better stay here. In that moment, bone hands suddenly grew from under his feet, grabbing his legs like vines. In an instant, his body was bound in place. Lin tilted his head, looking at Black Skull. What does this mean? Black Skull hoarsely said, Your diagnostic ability has been cursed, and that curse has affected your mental state. Your current condition is extremely unstable. Can't you see that? Lin stood there like a statue, as if those words had touched him. But suddenly, he smirked. Are you joking? Almost in an instant, his legs suddenly swelled, directly shattering the bone hands that bound him. Crimson tentacles grew from his shoulders, extending rapidly and entwining Black Skull's body tightly. His body leaped effortlessly and landed on top of a nearby building. His smile was mad and pathological. I really find you annoying again. The curse inside you is deepening, and your cognition has severe confusion. I originally wanted to wait for our people to come and then subdue you, but it seems I have to take action now. Lin smiled in a deranged manner. Sorry, I don't have time to play games with you now. I have many patients who need my diagnosis. In an instant, his gaze suddenly locked onto the townspeople in the square. Countless tentacles, amidst his chaotic smile, swarmed towards them. Enough is enough. Almost not giving him any chance, the undead Black Skull opened his mouth suddenly, emitting terrifying soul screams towards Lin's direction. Bang, bang. The tentacles Lin shot out instantly burst, and Lin's body suddenly fell from the eaves, twisting and clutching his head, letting out screams of agony. That was a powerful mental interference and soul scream. Black Skull's gaze was indifferent, saying, "It seems I can only detain you first and wait for Mr. Raven to wake up before thoroughly investigating the curse inside you." He didn't hesitate at all, quickly approaching, and reached out to subdue Lin. But almost in an instant, a frantic voice suddenly resounded in his mind. He took a mental enhancement potion. "He's not afraid of your attacks. He's plotting against you." Black Skull's pupils suddenly contracted, but it was already too late. On the ground, Lin, writhing in pain, suddenly turned his head, his face showing an elegant smile, with no trace of pain. And what was horrifying was that his right eye was rolling blood, and that eyeball was no longer a human eye, but a dark abyss-like evil eye. Buzz, at the moment he was seen by that eye, he instantly felt something was wrong. "Give you a curse, give you a blessing, you annoying guy." Lin smiled and gently tapped his temple. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.